So welcome to ServiceNow Community Week. I'm Mark on the community team. Also, some of my awesome colleagues you probably know are here with us. Laszlo, our developer advocate, former MVP, Tanvi, who runs our developer Meetup program. They're on the Zoom, and we've got lots of our team also attending that will be joining you in breakouts. So thanks for being here. We're going to have a discussion with some of these awesome MVP and developer Meetup leaders from around the world. I have a few questions for them, and then we'll open it up to questions from you using the Q&A. And then after that, we've saved some time to go into breakouts for networking. On that note, we have an amazing group of folks with us today. I'd like to introduce you all to Susan Britt, who's a practice lead on employee workflows and also a leader on the Charlotte, North Carolina developer meetup. Ethan Davies, joining us, he's a ServiceNow platform architect and a leader of the Ottawa, Canada developer meetup. Tosin Dada is a senior business process analyst and a leader at the Nigeria developer meetup. And Shreya Wani is a programmer analyst and a leader at the Pune, India developer meetup. So glad to have you all here. This is going to be a fun, robust conversation. Real quick, let's see what our poll has to say. So we have a wide variety of journeys going on here. Several of you are just getting started. You have found the place to be, which is the ServiceNow community. Awesome people with great experience here to support you. We'll make sure at the end of the webinar that you have all the resources to connect with everything community has to offer you. And we've got quite a few veterans and folks in the middle as well. And so this is going to be really exciting. And let's look at a few of these answers under, I'll tell you a few of these answers of things that you wish you knew and biggest wins a little later after we come back from the breakouts. All right, I'm going to stop sharing the poll. Let's get to some questions. So I want to go around our panelists, kick things off just with a question I'll ask all of you, which is, tell me a bit about how and why did you get started in the ServiceNow community, and how have you seen the community impacting others' journeys? What are the tangible things community has done or can offer to others? Let me go first to Tosin on this. After Tosin, I'll go Susan. And yeah, Tosin, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm glad to be here. So I joined the ServiceNow community just right after, Next Gen, which is now called Rise Up. And one of the reasons why I joined was I was looking for a place where I could, upskill and, gain more knowledge and connect with more people. But what I found was totally different. I've always said it that ServiceNow community feels like home. It's a huge ecosystem where I've found mentors, I've found friends who are like, family now. I've found, people who are ready to teach me, and I'm able to also uplift other people and teach them as well with the work I do with, my co-hosts in the community, Mecca and Mike as well. So giving back has really been it for me. And it's really impacted my career a lot in the last 4 years.
That's amazing. Thank you. And I see the amazing posts from your meetup. You all are doing so much to bring other people together to learn from each other through mentorship and whatnot. So amazing work giving back as well. Susan?
So I started ServiceNow in 2010. So I was in the community, before it was really big and robust, but I got really active unintentionally. I was there looking for something, seen a title, a post that caught my attention, realized it was a question I could answer. And then I just went down a rabbit hole, and then Susan fashion. To start answering questions, but it became my release for the why. I kept doing it. It's selfish reasons. The cliche of like helping people, which I do, is there, but selfishly, like I'm a consultant, so I got to see how are other people using the system, what are they trying to achieve. So like answering the questions really educated me. And it gave me the opportunity to train and educate and coach up others, Tosin, to your point, and I really love that. And then I made it a challenge. I gamified it with myself. It's like, let me find the questions I don't know the answers to. That way, and then I said, like, let me go to my PDI, my personal developer instance, for those that are new in this journey. We've seen there's some of you, and let me dig into the code. Let me troubleshoot. Let me find out how to do it. So, and then go back and answer this win-win. The author's getting their answer, and I'm learning as well.
I love that. There's that old saying of like, the best way to learn is to teach, that you don't have to be at any place of perfection to start sharing what you know. And so that's very cool. And I do think, it just generates even more connection and mentorship when you start sharing. You don't have to be at a point of ready. Let me go on this question to Ethan, and then I'll finish up with Shreya.
Yeah, hey folks. I had a kind of similar story to Susan, really, where I had a lot of great kind of mentors when I was starting my ServiceNow career. And as soon as I was able to feel like I had a foundational set of knowledge that I could share with other people, then I started to go into the ServiceNow community and start to kind of try to share that as well and answer as many questions as I could. You know, as many I got wrong, but as many I got right too. And and kind of one of the things that you said earlier, Mark, is how have I seen the ServiceNow community kind of impact other people? And one of the key ones I've seen in the Ottawa Dev Meetup is we've had people who started to join that Dev Meetup who didn't know much or anything about ServiceNow. And at this point, a year or two later, some of those people are now ServiceNow practitioners, right? So that's been a really great success story to see people coming to these events and learning and getting into the ServiceNow ecosystem just through attending.
Yeah, that is very cool because sometimes people are just looking even for like what's their next career option. And so I encourage everyone listening to recognize you don't have to be at a state of knowing to go to one of our developer meetups or engage with our programs. In fact, I joined just a few months ago and I still haven't quite figured out this platform. So I'm going to start going to all of these developer meetups and see if I can't learn that way because I learn better from people. Shreya, let me kick it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy that all of you have joined. So basically, I actually started and I got to know about ServiceNow community very early in my career. So I had just like graduated from my college and I didn't know at all about ServiceNow. So accordingly, I started to just, log into my PDI, see to it that what exactly is this? How can I code? How can I do stuff into my PDI? And then because of that, I started looking for a little bit of help also. So that's when, as a fresher developer, I would search like every question I would have in my mind, and then the community always had an answer to it. So over time, like something shifted, and I wasn't just like learning from others anymore. I also like started contributing to, and that's when the magic really began. So basically, that community gave me a place to ask questions. I also got a lot of mentors from it, and I also got opportunities to go through meetups, challenges, and collaboration. So also because of that, I also got to know about meetups, and I think meetup is a very great place where I get to witness that impact firsthand. So I've seen like a lot of fresh graduates. I mean, I can also resonate with them. Because I was also a fresher at once, so I have seen a lot of those freshies coming and walking into those meetups, and they were feeling a little bit unsure at the start, but at the end they walk out with confidence, new knowledge, and even a lot of things with great collaborations. So I think that's the impact that we are building up, and at the end all of them are feeling supported in this ecosystem.
Awesome. You know, this is actually a perfect transition to one of my first questions that I'll address to you, Shreya, and that is because we're talking about how great a community event is or a meetup for learning, for finding folks who can help you navigate. And I think there are just so many options for learning and growth. You know, there's tons of content out there, both from ServiceNow and from the community and from others. There's certifications, there's meetups, there's, other kinds of events, documentation. In sorting all that out, like what pathways have been most valuable for you, in learning, and how would you help someone think about prioritizing the ways that they should learn so that they stay current and they grow their career without getting overwhelmed?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. And it's something that I personally struggled with in early in my career, because there is like so much to learn from ServiceNow, and trying to consume everything can be a bit overwhelming. But for me, I feel that the most valuable pathways for me has been definitely one is developer meetups, and second is mentorship. And because why is that? Because both of those spaces where the learning becomes real and relatable. So basically, meetups can give you those kind of live demos, those kind of live sessions, and you can actually go to the speakers and ask your questions to them directly. So you are actually like understanding from directly those people. Then you also have like kind of exposure to those new features, like you can say AI capabilities. Recently, in one of our meetups, we had a really fun quiz wherein everything was based on AI, and everything was related to the generative AI capabilities in ServiceNow. So even a lot of freshers who attended those meetups, they were like, okay, we have got so much to learn from these meetups. We also have those kind of real conversations, the kind you won't be finding, or I believe you won't be finding in documentations or recorded videos, and a lot of supportive network that keeps you motivated and accountable. So I feel that this is definitely one thing. And the second thing I feel is great mentorship. And I think that that's where a confidence is being born, because I got one of the best mentors in developer meetups itself. So I used to look to them, I used to look upon them that, wow, these people are so good and they have so much of knowledge. But then they kind of, prioritize, they tell you that what to learn based on our goals. They can also help us to avoid common mistakes which we are starting to do, and they can help you to navigate your career. So I would recommend that maybe people can start with the basics, start checking out the documents, start checking out questions on community. You can also contribute towards that. Maybe a foundational certificate like system admin can be the one. Then you can also look around different developer meetups within your locality, ask questions, go forward and try presenting and building your network. One thing also very important is seeking a mentorship, and then you can accordingly advance your training based on that. So I think that the key is not trying to learn everything, it's about learning the right things at the right time. So that's because that's where the community comes in.
That is hugely great advice. And I have a quick follow-up question that I'll open up to the panel on mentorship. But first, let me just say, if you've just joined us, welcome. This is the Community Week Social. We're here with 4 amazing MVPs and developer meetup leaders in our community, talking about everything from learning and growth, career, how to stay ahead, and then we're going to open it up to your questions. So if you hear something in the conversation that you want to ask more from our panel, please do use the Q&A feature at the bottom and pop that in there. Now, to anyone on the panel who wants to just answer this, I've heard mentorship come up a few times now, and I think sometimes people get nervous, like, how do I ask a mentor, or what are the parameters? What should I ask from them? Should there be limits? And Tosin, I see you coming off, I think getting really specific, what are a few ways to actually initiate mentorship, especially if you're a person who's nervous to ask for help?
So as somebody who's always really nervous to ask for help, I think one of the things that has helped me in ServiceNow has been realizing that people are always open to, to help. When I first, met during the program, the Next Gen program, I was paired with an amazing mentor who today, years later, she's still my mentor. So, but one thing I did is, after a while from our, discussions each time, I started to make sure that I was having, smart goals, right? I know I have like something for her to actually discuss on. The duration of time it's going to take me to actually achieve that. That actually made it easier on her. So if you're looking for a mentor, don't just be an open book. You should kind of have like a guideline, say, okay, in 1 year, I would like to be a solutions architect. This is my plan. This is what I intend to do. Then they can guide you on maybe you need to, go through this part before that, because I also mentor people in our community as well. Another thing is don't be shy. ServiceNow is a great place and there are a lot of great people willing to help you each time. So when you reach out, just reach out to somebody. You might not know if they're actually waiting for you to reach out. I mean, I just had another, mentor added to my mentor list, which was Jerry Wong last week, just from having a phone call with him. And yeah, so please feel free to reach out to people. That'll be my advice. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually going to kick the next question to you. And so great that you had that thought on that one as well. So to this point, for someone who is new to ServiceNow, we have several folks in the webinar right now who are just starting their journey. If they're new, or let's say they're transitioning roles, what is your advice for leveraging the community to, accelerate that learning and build credibility in the field and start getting noticed for your skills so that maybe you're moving towards that next role or your first role?
So I will start by saying community actually shortens your journey. If it's a long journey, sometimes being active in the community can make it even, easier for you. My advice would be for, you're joining the community, show up. ask questions, answer some questions, join the meetups like Shreya's mentioned. The meetup are a great place to meet people, to network, to actually learn a lot. Another thing would be to join, some of these groups. We have a lot of, different, we have the Slack, we have the Discord channels, join those channels. Another thing would be to join study groups, because in our community, we also have study groups where we study together for certain exams. Maybe we're doing the ITSM, we all, schedule time and study. Another thing would be to post about your progress. Don't just do these things and keep it in your box. I mean, feel free to write about it on LinkedIn. I always tell people, show up, right? You never know who is like probably thinking about something in their head. You go on there and you post it and they feel like you just spoke about something they were, looking for. So another thing would be to share what you learn. It doesn't matter how small. Don't think it's until you build the first AI agent. You could learn about something that the flow does and you share about it. You're actually teaching someone. And also, help with, projects, volunteer, collaborate, like the Hacktoberfest. That was a great one. And, being part of one of the reviewers and also making sure that I was able to, push my community as well. And we had, a few people with the gold badge. That was really, really nice. And then, host sessions, mentor someone. I always say something is, apart from the fact that I'm able to help others, I believe they should also help someone else. That is how we grow. So, reach out to somebody who's a beginner, help them as well, because sometimes it says that your name travels, far before your CV gets to that desk. So.
Awesome. Okay, now I'm going to ask this quick follow-up. Anyone on the panel, if you have a thought on this, and that is, I think transitioning a career can be a little scary. And there's, of course, a lot of questions a person would have about where to start. Not so much what do you do when you're transitioning, but let's talk a little bit about mental frame. What do you see as a couple of ways of approaching a transition that helps make someone successful and helps get them through? Because I think sometimes people see oh, I'd love to do this, but I don't think I could. I don't know where to start. So yeah, what is sort of some of the mental frame that you see people need to adopt if they're really making a change or a transition?
So before I can just say something little on that. So I think for most people, I always say the beauty of ServiceNow is that you can transition, right? And your skills are transferable. One thing is not to just go overboard and try to learn the whole platform at once. Try to niche down on something. You could start with a particular application first before you start to know the whole platform. Don't go for, platform knowledge. Just to get yourself a little accustomed to, how the technology works. So that would be my advice for anyone transition. And take it slow. It's a journey. It's not a race.
Yeah, and I love that. Susan, you came off mute. Did you have a thought on this too? Thank you, Tosin.
Yeah, I do. I think if you've heard me speak, you probably heard me say it before, is really adopt that mindset of being that lifelong learner where you have grace with yourself. If you're say I'm still learning, even if you've been in it for 15 years, then you're okay if you don't have all the answers. You're not looking for perfection. Just take the leap, have faith in yourself. And there is that network of people here to support you really in the community, the mentors. I've seen a question from Hamid, just reach out, get help, and have grace with yourself, and make mistakes and keep learning, because there's tons of resources to keep learning, and just be honest. I just think that's the biggest thing. Just keep that mindset, I'm learning, and do the work. Don't use it as an excuse, as a crutch. Oh, I'm still learning, it's fine, but do the work along with having that grace for yourself.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. I think especially in technical or semi-technical roles, people aren't necessarily looking for you to know everything. They want to see how you've demonstrated solving problems, how you've demonstrated collecting the next level of knowledge. So sometimes, just as you were saying too, Tosin, of putting your projects out there, sharing even when you don't know everything, that can be huge even for getting that next role and that next step in that. So awesome. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to go to the next question. This is for Ethan. Here we go with AI. That word, AI and automation, is totally reshaping workflows, work, and the skills we need. What skills or practices should someone on ServiceNow, especially in a technical role, really prioritize to stay relevant in 2026 and beyond? Where do you see that skill base shifting, and what's needed?
Well, I think the easy answer for a lot of people is to talk about technical skills and talking about how to build within AI. But for me, it's focusing on actually the softer and the human skills. So actually getting really good at problem solving and that kind of technical solution design is really going to help you understand when you're building things with AI how these things are actually being constructed. How are these Lego blocks actually fitting on top of each other? And are things being built in the right way? And that's an important part too. Simply asking for an output is great, but if you don't understand how that was built or how the underlying kind of plumbing actually works, then it's going to cause you a lot of troubles down the road. So really taking it as a force multiplier to your technical skills rather than a replacement is really super important. So don't lose sight of the importance of having that technical angle and that technical knowledge as well. And on top of that, having really clear and effective communication skills is also super important when you're working with AI. Now, prompt engineering is a topic that comes up quite a lot. So obviously, when we're articulating to AI what we want to build or the outcome that we want to achieve, we have to be super clear and prescriptive for how we want that to be done. It's not just saying I want the output, it's how I want it to be built. Here's the potential pitfalls you should avoid. Here's the things you should consider. Here's the things you should ignore. We really have to think of all the different types of angles of what could go wrong or what could be outputted from that prompt that we actually don't want and that we don't care about. So getting really explicit in your communication and detail is actually super, super important. And the last thing as well then is around security. So as we work with AI, data is passing between different systems and sometimes between different geographies. So this becomes super, super important to really think about where your data is coming from a lineage perspective, but also from a security, how the data is really kind of transitioning from system to system. So having a good idea of the frameworks behind that is really also going to be able to help you have some intelligent conversations with people. When you talk to security teams at a customer or at your place of work, these are some of the things that are going to come to mind first. So come prepared for that so that it doesn't kind of blindside you when those conversations come up.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's great advice. And it's interesting with AI being such a tool that some of the strong advice is hone your human and communication skills, not just for how you're going to talk with others about implementing it, but because it's going to make you more effective at actually commanding AI. That's quite interesting. I'm going to go to Susan here with a question in just a second, but I have one from the chat that I want to bring up now because we were just talking about getting started and skills. And it's Charisse asks, looking back, what's one common mistake you see people make early in their ServiceNow careers? I'll kind of put this out to anyone on the panel, but what is that common mistake? And I don't know if Ethan, with some of this skill shifting, that has some relevance as people are thinking about, even if they're seasoned, needing to build new skills.
Yeah, a common mistake I would say is, I think for a lot of people, it's not so much a mistake, but it's maybe something that I experienced when I was kind of getting started in ServiceNow community was kind of lack of confidence and imposter syndrome, right? I really felt that early on, especially when you're working and typing questions in the ServiceNow community or trying to, share your expertise on LinkedIn or on a webinar or whatever it might be. You are really standing on the shoulders of giants in a lot of senses, right? So what I would say is really try not to let that fear of sharing knowledge and being involved in the community kind of be greater than your desire to actually want to contribute, because that can be something really hard to wrestle with. And one thing I will say is that whenever I post on LinkedIn, whenever I post something, whenever I'm even joining a webinar here, I'm super, super nervous. I'm super, super anxious. Like I'm worried about saying the wrong thing. Like, it's not like just because we're here, we don't have these human emotions, right? So just understand that everyone else is in the same boat, and just power through, and the more you do it and the more you share, the more comfortable and stronger you'll be in that regard.
Awesome. Real quick, and then I'll go to you, Shreya. I think you had a thought on this, but let me just make a quick announcement. Folks, if you've joined us in the middle of this, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We're talking great stuff with some MVPs and developer meetup leaders. You get a badge for attending today's webinar. So if you would drop your community profile name in the chat, and we'll make sure we get a badge for you. And then let me go, Shreya. I think you had thoughts on this quick question from Charisse, and then we'll kind of go to Susan right after that. Thanks, Ethan.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So I would completely agree with what Ethan mentioned because I have just like a backstory behind it. I was also, when I started my career, I was like a fresh graduate, and then I had like I was like super shy. I used to think twice, thrice before asking a question. I also had that kind of an imposter syndrome that what if I ask this question and what if the answer is wrong to that, and what if somebody says that this is not something you should be asking. But then like later on I came to know that through the power of community, through ServiceNow community, it's okay that if you're wrong, it's okay because everyone in here in this ServiceNow community is a learner. Everyone is in the journey of learning. So it's okay if you open up, if you ask questions, if you have any kind of smallest doubts, it's okay if you put through it. So I think that that is like the biggest mistake which I used to do when I started. But I think that whenever you open up and just discuss it around with everyone, I think it will be taken care of.
I love that. And to Ethan's point about imposter syndrome and what you were saying, and I just want to encourage everyone listening. I think you hear this conversation that everyone experiences some imposter syndrome. You're not alone. Mistakes are part of the learning journey. The more you can just have fun with those and move forward anyway, there's a whole community to support you. Let me go to Susan with this question, because Susan, as a consultant, you see how customers do things similarly, differently, how different technologists try and work with customers. And I'm sure there are folks on the call who are in that same boat. So what are some of the most common challenges that you see customers facing that they're trying to, solve with ServiceNow? And how do you think ServiceNow practitioners, whether you're a staff member in that organization or a consultant serving a customer, how can those practitioners think about better meeting those customer challenges?
Well, I think of a lot of challenges. But I think there's two overarching themes that I see most often with the majority of customers is one is they're not taking advantage of what they already have. So meaning they may know like high level, oh, I own ITOM or I own HRSD, but they don't know the capabilities within there. So they're not utilizing all of it and getting that big return on their investment. And kind of along those same lines, when major family releases come out, quarterly store app releases, they don't know the new functionality that's coming that they could easily just turn on, implement, or configure real quick, to improve that experience or their efficiency. So I think that's a big one. And then the major one I see in the consulting world is they're not thinking big picture holistically or strategically, right? They're so focused in their little world, like, oh, I'm in facilities. I'm going to think from a facilities lens, or I'm just thinking about IT, or I'm so honed in on this is what I want to solve for. This is my issue or my enhancement. And they're not thinking, well, is that scalable? Are all these other use cases and scenarios, right? And when you do that, you end up like technical debt, non-scalable solutions, and a lot of rework. You're potentially impacting some other department using ServiceNow because you're only worried about your world. And then that user experience, whether that's your internal or external customers, you're impacting them a lot of times. And how the practitioners can help, whether that's your internal ServiceNow team, a third-party vendor, consultant, managed service provider, is hopefully they understand your culture, your company, your context of what you're trying to accomplish. So you can't know everything about ServiceNow. That's a common mistake. People start thinking like, oh, I'm going to learn it all, right? So it's like, we're not going to know everything about every app and every capability in ServiceNow, but they understand your company needs. You can pay attention to those major releases. Like, here's what you're using and what's new that you can turn on, or here's what's coming up in the next release, or here's what you own that you're not using, right? Guide you through that. And then also challenge you when you come with those very siloed solutions and ideas, just like, but what about this? Or what about this scenario, right? So they're helping you not run into those common pitfalls, like kind of like Ethan mentioned. There's a lot of them out there, but a good practitioner will keep you from hitting those.
Just following up on that real quick, what do you see as like maybe one or two strong personal or communication or what we call soft skills? I don't think they're soft. I think they're crucial skills that helps a consultant or a practitioner, because this could be maybe you're a consultant working with a customer, right? But maybe you are kind of managing up to your leadership, trying to help them see a bigger picture. What are some of those skills that you notice help people effectively get people to see outside their silos a little bit?
Yep. I think it is communication obviously is huge, right? So it's the listening part of the communication, not just talking and getting your point across effectively. It's like listening to what they're wanting to do and picking up on cues, because the bigger picture vision is always like, aren't we worried about our end users? Aren't we worried about our employees? Well, if you do this, this is how it's going to impact them. Or if you name this, like very simple things, if you name your service or catalog item this, like they're not going to know what that is, right? It's just those little things to pick up on, and kind of going back to that lifelong learning. If you're always listening for things to remember, like here, I'm putting this in my toolbox, I'm going to use it later for these conversations to pinpoint, and remembering those lessons learned, like, well, if you do this, this is going to happen. It's really your memory skills and communication, I think, are the biggest, and building that connection kind of with that communication. So if they trust you, they know you've got their best interest at heart. You're not just trying to force something down their throat or just do the easiest solution. Like, they're going to trust you more.
I love that. Thank you, Susan. So I'm going to go to a couple questions from our attendees, and then friends, in just a few minutes, we'll transition to networking so that many of you on the call get a chance to meet each other, maybe some of our panelists. This goes back to an AI question. So Kunal asks, how does ServiceNow make AI easier to adopt without all the integration and governance headaches we've had with external cloud LLMs? I know, Ethan, this is a space of yours, but anyone who wants to weigh in on this, I think there's a lot of questions about so many of these moving parts with AI right now.
Yeah, I can take a stab here. So I won't kind of speak to product specifics here, because that's not my area of expertise. But one of the great things about the ServiceNow AI model is the fact that it's built on the platform data model, right? So we can integrate, with the unified data model across the platform, and then we can get full visibility to how our AI is actually performing within the AI control tower in ServiceNow as well. So we have really super great visibility in ServiceNow as to how our AI is being used, how it's reasoning, how it's getting to an answer. And that is often some of the big questions that teams in companies will have around AI is, okay, so how is this data being, how is this data being transferred from one geolocation to another? Is it at all? How is this AI coming to this determination, to this reasoning? And that's all kind of transparent within ServiceNow. And then that AI control tower then also gives us that kind of very high level view of exactly what all our agents are deployed and how they are interacting with our system as well. So ServiceNow does have a lot of out-of-the-box capabilities to help really help us with that governance piece that we don't really have to reinvent the wheel on.
Awesome. Anyone else working with AI that has a thought on that before I move to another question in the Q&A? Let me go, then I'm going to go to Tosin and Shreya for a couple thoughts on this. This is a great question. And the question is for anyone on the panel, but I'm going to address it to Tosin and Shreya. What was the thing that made it click for you? Like, what was the one key skill that was crucial for you understanding the whole system and gaining the confidence to build upon that? And I think by system, we're talking about ServiceNow platform in this case.
Okay, I think for me, it should be, apart from, being able to go into the community, get answers to my questions, it should be, my PDI, my personal PDI, being able to try out some things in there before, because as a business, process analyst, sometimes before you want to, present something to your customers, you want to ensure that this is out of the box, it works the right way before you go in there. So I always consider my PDI as my very own, instance, like a customer instance would be. And another thing is being able to research, ask questions, use it actually, trying to go into, sometimes if I can find out my PDI, I go into the Now Learning courses. They have, a lot of, more demo data that is not in my PDI. I'm able to try it out myself before I actually present that to my customers. So that actually helps my confidence in knowing that I'm not just, telling them something, it's something that actually works and the right way, the way it should work. I'm explaining the process to them, and also avoiding a lot of, technical, jargons and what I'm telling them, trying to, because it's sometimes not very easy to break it down, but sometimes you just have to bring it down to that business level.
Mm.
That
Yeah, and
language where it's not very confusing and you're talking about CIs and they're like, what is a CI?
this makes me think a little too of what Susan said, and I've heard this so many times. Anyone who thinks they could possibly know the whole platform is sort of kidding themselves. And so that whole
Yeah.
idea of, you know, work where you are. And this is, I mean, this brings up another great question from the Q&A, and it's going to have to be our last of the panel, so we have time for networking. Thank you, Tosin. And Shreya, maybe you have a thought on this, and others as well. Feel free to put your thoughts in the chat too. Uh, but the question is, do you think ServiceNow rewards being a generalist or a specialist more in the long run, especially for people entering now? Do you need to try and focus on getting a broad set of expertise, or do you really need to find a niche?
Maybe I can answer that question. So from my end, I think that what worked actually for me is that when you get to know the ServiceNow basics, you can actually work in any module. Because at the end of the day, those modules have, I mean, if you talk about HRSD, if you talk about SPM, all those things are like built upon some businesses, some business cases, or they have like certain things which we need to understand at a later stage. But at the end, ServiceNow basics is the one thing which we need to understand. Because let's say like business rules, client scripts, these are not going to change if you go and work into any module. It's at the end of the day is that the basics are going to help you to understand the different modules. So I have to say that for me it actually always worked is when I understood the complete basics, that how ServiceNow actually works, how we can build an app, or how we can create business rules, how we can automate some things, what is a flow designer. When you understand those things uh, from a base case, then I think you will be able to understand all the modules. At the end, it's just about the different perspectives from those modules.
Mm-hmm. I love that answer. Thank you so much. That's it, because there's not a perfect answer and it's sort of a balance, but that's extremely helpful. Panelists, if we're going to go ahead and close here, I want to thank you so much for your time. I think this got a lot of thoughts going and a lot of great conversation going. We're going to move to some networking now, where attendees, you can connect and you can talk a little bit about questions that are still on your mind from this discussion, or things you're really thinking about after you've been listening. So give me just a moment here. Let me get the next slide up so we can help everyone understand how this is going to work. And we're going to hope for the cooperation of Zoom. So for our breakouts, you're going to go into breakout rooms, about 4 or 5 folks at a time. And first, as an icebreaker, in the chat, share your LinkedIn profile so you can actually make some connections today. Well, there's been a lot of talk and questions about mentorship. And the way to start finding mentorship is first to start making connections with other practitioners in the community. And then a couple quick questions for you as an icebreaker. Have you attended a developer meetup or any of our other community events? If so, which one? And I love this question, Susan. This was Susan's idea. What is a household chore you actually like to do? Like, I will do the dishes, but do not ask me to sweep and mop. So get that going in your conversations just to break the ice. And then once you've had a chance to interact with everyone and do some introductions, have a little conversation about what is something that's still on your mind from this conversation today, something you're still wondering, something that's a discovery, or something maybe you're just inspired to do next. Welcome. So we are back. I just want to take a quick second before we close and just hear, maybe we can hear from a few of our panelists. Tosin, I would love to hear from you. Anything going on in your conversations that really you'd want to share out to the whole group?
I think apart from us having not liking to clean houses in common, another thing, another thing was, getting to talk to, Becky, and she would love, I think she should have a meetup in Southwest Virginia because there's quite some people there, and it would be nice for, people to actually, meet each other and connect. That is one great one. Community rocks, so let's do it.
All right, we would love to help you get a meetup going. So please do reach out. Tanvi is your key point of contact. You can find any of us on LinkedIn if you need to. Anyone else from the panel? Any takeaways or interesting things in the conversations I abruptly ended on you?
Yeah, people don't like you washing clothes because we usually forget to take them out of the washer and dry them. So that's the chore that we landed on. But another kind of key theme was really just the value in attending in-person ServiceNow events, whether it's a dev meetup, whether it's a forum, and just, you know, people's experience attending those, especially in a world where we work remotely most of the time. Those in-person connections and networking just become super, super more important. So, you know, a lot of people just saying how much positive experiences they've had from connecting with people in person. And that's been a really standout thing for you know, not just dev meetups, but also, you know, the other community events as well that ServiceNow run.
Excellent. Shreya, Susan, anything from you?
Yeah, so one thing I noticed that within the breakout room, everyone were loving cooking, but nobody likes to wash dishes. So that is one thing for sure. But from the ServiceNow community, I think there was Blasovia and there was one more person. So we were just discussing about that they actually transitioned their role from being maybe an administrator to a developer. Even Lasovia was working in Salesforce, and now she is wanting to come into ServiceNow. She's exploring ServiceNow. So I think the one thing which standed out from our conversation was the power of community, which she mentioned. She said that it's the community that has driven her to move from Salesforce to ServiceNow. She has seen that we are getting recognized within the ServiceNow community. It's the support, it's the people, it's the power, it's the impact which we are building within the ServiceNow community. And I think that is the best thing that she just mentioned about, because of which she is transitioning her role. So yeah, I think that was very good thing.
I love that. Thank you, Shreya. Susan, was there anything you wanted to add before we close out?
Yeah, we had someone that's brand new in the ServiceNow ecosystem as well, a couple of months in as a full stack developer. And so our advice that we all kind of agreed on that have been in is like, don't trust the AI generated results on Google search. When you search for like ServiceNow results, they're not very accurate because they're searching very old documents that have like customizations and things that you can just configure now. So it's like, don't trust those.
That's a hot take tip, because people would maybe not have known that. And it goes back to like, what data is the AI actually pulling from? And that's that source of like starting with trust and security. So excellent tip. Everybody, I just want to say thank you, first of all, to all of you who attended and took an hour out of your day with us. I hope this was helpful and you got to meet some folks, get some ideas, and feel like you have an awesome community that can help you start moving forward. Another huge thank you to our panelists. I'm going to do that a little more in a moment, but in the chat, Tanvi is dropping again a couple resources. We have our community site. If you're looking for what all can I heard a lot about community today, what can I participate in? We have an awesome challenge coming up on November 12th that allow you to kind of get hands-on, or if you currently are in or run a developer meetup, you could do the Build With challenge with your group virtually or at an actual event. And then I just, coming back to our panelists, you shared some awesome insights today. Thank you all, Ethan, Susan, Shreya, Tosin. It was wonderful to spend an hour with you and learn from you. You are kind, you are generous, you're hilarious, you're real, and we so appreciate your expertise and you being here. Everybody, it has been a delight. Of course, I closed my YouTube link with the song. So thanks, and I'll just close out then by singing it. We are family. Ow. Come on, everybody, and sing. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye, everyone.
you. Thank you, everyone.